I was there yesterday, and I think we've got to the point with Essendon where, like, half time, the second quarter was the worst. Half time, I went out to the media area, and everyone was pretty much the same. We feel sorry for what's happening at Essendon. It's sad to watch. This is a football club that looks broken to me. I feel sad for the supporters. I feel sad for the players and the coaches. I mean, it's just got to a point where, and I know at Carlton over the journey you've had, low points. I don't know whether you've been as low as this. This is almost Matthew Richards actually said this. Take out the supplements scandal, the off-field stuff. This is the lowest ebb that football club's been at maybe ever.
Yeah, and it's a hard watch because at the moment, like that, obviously Brad's been moved on, Dean's taken over, and I think what's making it worse is the comparison to Carlton, and I think that's especially from a fan perspective is seeing a team do the same thing as you, put a caretaker coach in and have this big jump, which is then you're seeing your team not do that. I think that's weighing on it as well. I whether you feel sorry for them or not, I think there's a point where they needed a bigger change to their whole sort of game plan, structure, team than what Carlton did at the time. And if I go over my own time, we had some really lean years, and at the back end of this year, these sorts of years, you're kind of hoping and wishing to the end so that you can reset and you can what's working. No, what's happening right now is not working. There needs to be massive change in the way you're doing it, but trying to implement that in season is incredibly difficult. You're trying to wholesale change defensive philosophy, offensive philosophy, and teach that during the week. Teach players running patterns and where to go, where to stand, and get everyone on the same page. That most teams take the whole preseason to try and do that and still don't really always implement exactly what they want to. Yeah. So trying to do that week to week for Dean Solomon is incredibly hard at the moment.
Because it happened really early in the season, didn't it? Like usually this stuff happens later in the year and you can kind of limp towards the end of the year, maybe get a couple of wins on the way through, get a new coach, then implement it. This has happened really early, so we've got still a long way to go.
And this was always, and I remember talking about this at the time when the discussions were up about against Carlton and Essendon, and the ones for Carlton were coming around 5 or 6 or something. Yeah. And getting to mid-year was an important part for both clubs because that runway is 12 to 13 games. For Carlton, it might be more because of things turning around. But it's a long time. It's a long time to try and change without having the time to do it. And then ultimately, we're watching a team that is largely on just different pages when it comes to the way they're playing. And whether that's from sort of historic across the pre-season, whether that's from some guys trying to change things now and understanding it and the other players not, or there's who knows from a motivation point of view where everyone's at. Is there players playing for their career? Is there players leaving? Is there players thinking about the off-season? You don't know, but when you're in these really dark spots, you're just trying to find some form of happiness. So often not thinking about footy is where you go, which is ultimately probably hurting them even further because now they're probably not buying in as much as they want. So incredibly hard spot to be as a footy club. Incredibly hard spot for Dean Solomon to be trying to bring the club together plus make the changes he wants. It's just hard.
Let's have a listen to Dean Solomon post-game yesterday.
Well, it's gone through a lot, hasn't it, the last 20 years? There's been a few low points. Is it the lowest? I'm not sure, but it's difficult. It's difficult right now, but you know what? No individual is going to do this on their own. We've got to do it together. We've got to solve and come up with solutions to work our way through this and slowly turn it. There's no quick fix here. We're going to have to do the yards to turn this club, and we knew that, and we're working to do that. And I know it doesn't look good right now, but we're doing what we can in the short term.
One thing that I believe, this is my opinion, I don't think Dean Solomon can be handed the job now. I think to excite the fans, to excite the electorate, he needed wins, and you can't be putting in performances like that and get the senior job. That's just an opinion. And the other thing I said yesterday, and again, might be controversial, but again, I was a little bit 50-50 on whether or not James Hird should come back as coach. I think the club needs him. I reckon it's so broken, Essendon, and the fans are so disillusioned that they need James Hird to come in and just give that club an injection of something.
Yeah, and to go with both of your opinions there, I think that the Dean Solomon one, I don't think you can judge him off the way he's coaching at the moment, and this is more broadly for a coaching job in terms of, it's incredibly difficult to turn Essendon around at the moment, and that's just the realities of where it's
I'm not saying he's a bad coach.
That's what I mean.
All I'm saying is that
from the external factors, I completely understand. There's a tipping point where if they put him in now, I don't think the fans would be very happy about it at all. And that's just the reality of where the club's at. And he's a legend of Essendon, but I'm probably of the same view in terms of how palatable will that be for the fans out there. I'm not an Essendon fan, but I can't imagine that would be something that they'd be loving. I've always been a put James Hird in the seat. That's just been my view and my opinion across the whole time. So as soon as he put his hand up,
based on.
It was based on partly from what you're saying. It's partly about they need him. I feel like they need him to bring the club together to sell some hope. And maybe I had them further down in my book in terms of where the club was at compared to what a lot of others did. And I think he suits that part of it. I think I listen to him in the media. I'm less of the coach has to be this tactical genius, and I'll put that up front now because coaching these days is so much about people management and managing the football department, managing your players. There's more to it than just being the best tactical mind. You can get the best tactical mind in behind you. And I think if James got the job, that's what he does. He goes and gets a few people that are highly regarded across the league that have got really good tactical nous that have been in the league at the moment and bringing them with him. What he does is he's a focal point for the footy club in a really dire period in their history that allows the fans to hold on to some hope. You look, and someone said to me this other day, you look at was it the 150th celebration when James came out and
with the scarf
and the united nature of how that looked for the club. From that perspective is why I think he should be the coach. To give or take, and I know he's been out of the game for a while, but I think he's got all the tools and the way he presents and the way his presence and the way he speaks about the game, I think that all that is there. I know there's been the dark past of where it all went with him last time, but I don't think that should be held against him as much as some others do.
133 693 if you want to buy in on that. What's your opinion? We do have the 2 bottles of the Borderly to give away for our best caller tonight. Deb, we'll take you first, wants to have a chat about the Bombers. Hi, Deb.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Followed Essendon for years, and my dear dad did for 84 years. We have to have James Hird back. We're so broken. It was so embarrassing, my son and I coming home yesterday, listening on the radio, wanting to go, oh, my God, and I won't say the additives we added. But I think we are so damaged that when the fans, on the average, are not going to expect miracles, but at least the morale may be lifted because there's discontent and disquiet now. And Essendon will lose so many fans if they don't do something. We shouldn't even be in the AFL. You want to know the truth? We should pay the AFL to put us in the seconds because we're pathetic.
Thank you, Deb. Oh, that's coming from an Essendon fan. There you go.
This is the hard. I've worked on 3AW over the last couple of weeks, and we've spoken a lot about Essendon and James Hird. It's a very polarising topic, and then this is the hard part about the footy club at the moment. Is you get a lot of fans that will call up and say like, "Nah, he has to be in the club," and then you'll get the other side of it. They'll be like, "No, well, he put us into the last dark time of our history." So it's going to be a polarising topic. The bit that, and I'll just take 2 seconds, but we've got a lot of callers. Speaking of Lloydie on the weekend, and Lloydie was speaking about if they were going to go with an experienced coach, they probably would have done that already. You're not probably
like John Longmire.
You're probably not putting them through the process. So now that they're into the process, now it's against a untried coach. I just feel like it leans further into what James Hird brings to the club. I find it. I'll be staggered if they choose an untried coach over him. I wouldn't have been staggered if they chose a John Longmire over him, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
And I think also that you make the comparison with Carlton a little earlier. I heard someone a couple of weeks ago make the comparison with Stephen King at Melbourne. You can't compare Melbourne with Essendon. I mean, they won the flag not long ago. They've still got premiership players. They've got Cosy Pickett. You can't compare. We'll just get an assistant coach and bang, they might do what Melbourne did. It's a long rebuild for Essendon compared to Melbourne.
Yeah, and this is part of my decision. My talking about Zach Merritt last year, and maybe this was me looking on the outside. I thought that they should have been starting to rebuild last year, where their list was at. And they were talking as if they should be playing finals. It's probably just understanding where your list was at, because last year, if you're going to start rebuilding, taking all the picks for Zach Merritt would have been the smart thing to do.
Yep.
That sounds genius now in hindsight of what's happened over the year. But that's it's taking stock of where the club's at and starting to get some strategy about where they're moving forward.
Couple of quick calls before we break. Daryl's next. Hi, Daryl.
Yeah, g'day. I've been following, as a Pies supporter, I've been following with interest not only what happened to James Hird, but how to move forward. And as a retired CEO of a large organisation, a company's got a lot to do with its spirit. And I think Essendon and the supporters deserve to give James, on a personal personal basis, the opportunity, and he can surround himself with the appropriate people. Not every CEO knows everything, but he can certainly surround himself with those who do. And I think James deserves the opportunity to finish his career, to reinvigorate the club and reinvigorate himself.
All right, thank you, Darren. We heard from Lloydie on Friday night, didn't we, that he's got a blueprint.
He's got a presentation.
He's got it all ready, and he's got the people he wants to bring. It's all there ready to go. And Lloydie said that whoever, if he goes against someone else in an interview situation, they want to be a very good presentation. That was his words, because he is absolutely ready to go. Thank you, Darryl. And Sue's next. Hello, Sue.
Hi, I've been an Essendon supporter forever, and I saw yesterday, forget the scoreboard, some of those young guys are actually the future stars. I saw some excellent football, and I think give them a go,
They've got a couple there, Sue, haven't they?
They're young.
I like Roby. I like Caddy. I really like Caddy.
Kako. I'm not saying that they don't have some really good young players coming through. I quite like their core for the future.
Yeah.
But to go the core for the future, you need to invest in what that group's going to be moving forward. That's the next thing of where the club's at is how can you bring some more young talent to be able to top up around that group that you're going to go forward with.
Stuart wants to have a chat about the Bombers, though. Hello, Stuart.
G'day, guys. Look, I can't believe you're advocating for James Hird to come back as coach. Paul Little and James Hird single-handedly destroyed that football club, and that's not based on opinion. That's actually based on fact. I just cannot believe that you would want them anywhere near a football club ever again.
Well, that's the other part of it, Doc, you were just talking about, the polarisation. It's just an opinion, Stuart, but there's a lot on that side.
Yeah, and ultimately, I'm not going to begin to completely understand whatever went on in the football club in that period of time. I know what's been reported, but I don't know whose fault it was or what's happened. And I'm also of the view that he's been sitting out of the game for a long period of time. We continue to bash him about it, and ultimately, this is the whole issue with this topic, and it's part of the reason why so many people call up. It's a polarizing topic. It's a polarizing view, and there's a lot of people, and even fans of Essendon. There's probably 50-50 or 60-40 one way or the other in terms of no, he should not be at our football club, and then the other 50% are like, no, he has to be at our football. So this is going to be the hard thing. So. Whatever they choose, I'm referencing Lloydie because we chatted to him and he's from Essendon. So he just wants to see the process play out properly, and that's the whole issue. The whole thing with all of it is Hird has to present well and be picked based off that process. And if that occurs and he's the best man for the job, then so be it.
Sam Docherty is with me, our Monday expert. Outside of the Bombers, Doc, who was the biggest loser from the weekend, do you think?
Oh, the biggest loser for me was North Melbourne. It was there playing Port Adelaide. I quite like the way that Port Adelaide play, especially at home from a defensive point of view. But just from the totality of where North Melbourne's season's at and trying to get into the 10 and play finals and take that step forward, it was a step backwards. If they bank that win, then their last sort of 7 weeks becomes obtainable in terms of they would have only needed a few more, and they got a lot of 50-50 games coming up, but they would have only needed to sneak maybe 2 to 3 to be able to get in the 10. Now they have to kind of go the 3 to 4 to get in, depending on how the results go in the back half of the year and/or percentage. So just a bit of a banana peel for them in terms of their year and trying to get into that 10. So for me, off the basis of that, they're my biggest loser for the weekend.
And just how it happened, like I was covering the game at Marvel, packed my gear up. It was 3/4 time. I think it was level at 3/4 time. Went to the car. And by the time I drove out of the car park, the game was over. I mean, they capitulated in that last quarter, didn't they? Yeah,
and ultimately the centre bounce started to hurt them in terms of the way Port Adelaide were able to get territory. And as Port have done for the whole year, they have been this banana peel team because they defend really well. They defend your ball movement. They defend in terms of the inside 50 differential quite well. and they keep you in your back half. So when they do that, the overwhelming pressure ends up getting to you, and they were able to do that on the weekend. One score from the centre bounce, and just keep you there.
You want to have a chat about the arc as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, the arc for me, it's just I don't know. It's going off the basis of the Carlton game and the Nick Haynes point that
That's right.
then was rushed and was actually over.
So it was over the first time, wasn't it?
It was over the first time, but this is more just broadly about the arc, and maybe this is my pet peeve with the AFL in terms of bringing in rules and or technology that isn't ready for such a big sport that's got a lot on the line. I feel like we bring in rules too early when they haven't been tested properly, and what teams are going to do and the unintended consequences that come out of that. Then the arc, the technology, it feels like we have a failure in the technology every week in terms of whether it's the boundary line, touched, kicked out of bounds stuff. There was one the other week that got kicked above the goalpost and we couldn't tell whether it was point or behind, and then it's just inconclusive. I feel like for such an expensive sport, for no better term, I feel like we could have better tech. And if we're not going to have the right tech that's going to make the right decisions, I'd rather go back to what we had until the technology's ready to do it.
The issue, though, is the howler. If you don't have the technology and and every so often you get the howler where the technology is there, then you'll have the argument on the other side. Oh, hang on, we had the cameras there. The camera, clearly shows that was a goal or that was a point, and we don't use the technology.
Yeah, and this is the whole argument, but I feel like we're getting just as many that we're arguing about or mistakes off the back of it anyway. Yeah. So for me, we're investing in something that's bringing up the same result. Now, in terms of the howler, there seems to be more mistakes in my mind. I don't have the data in front of me, but that's just my opinion on the arc. It's probably based off the back of watching a bit of the World Cup at the moment. You're seeing the VAR system, and there's probably soccer fans that hate the VAR system as well, but they're picking up a toenail over the line in terms of offsides, or there was one that snicked someone's hair on the way through that was an offside. Like that's the level that they're at, and then we're sitting over here we don't have high definition cameras at every ground. We don't have slow motion cameras at every ground. Yeah. It just feels like if we're going to do it properly. Otherwise, don't do it at all.
We'll talk about Hawthorn now, and actually Peter wants to have a chat about the Hawks. They lost on the weekend in Melbourne. Terrible first half. Pete, do you want to have a chat about the Hawks?
Yeah, good evening, gents, and thanks for taking my call. Sam, you said the biggest loser you thought was North Melbourne. Surely it would have had to been Hawthorn. I mean, my goodness. I mean, to be absolutely decimated like the way they were at a home ground. I know they've got a lot of injuries. I mean, I'm a Hawks supporter. They've got a lot of injuries. I get that. But that was just disgraceful. Yeah,
and Peter, they're right up there on my biggest losers for the weekend. I gave them a slight pass because of their injury list, and their whole back half was decimated. And ultimately, their midfield let them down significantly on the weekend, especially through the first half of the game. I haven't seen contested possession / clearance numbers.
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
They got smashed out of the middle, and then Melbourne just kept them there. So their inexperience of their back half wasn't able to hold up in that moment in terms of their contest and score against and or getting the ball out. Melbourne had an extraordinary amount of forward half turnovers for them in the first half. So they played in a style that was really going to sort of upset their back half and especially their inexperience. Then you go at half time and you watch the turnaround. Their midfield gets going. They start to even that part of the game out, and then they start to look okay. So the frustration if I'm Sam Mitchell is on my experienced mids that I had. I had my ruckman. I had pretty much all of my best inside mids playing, and then they dished that up for the first half. That'd be the frustration. But I also think Melbourne have been playing some good footy this year. It's not like I think we've probably been sleeping a little bit on them as well.
Are they a contender, Melbourne, or not?
They've got 7 weeks to show me that they can defend in this transition. This week was a step in the right direction for their first half. So their first half is the best of what they have. They win contests. They're able to keep it in their forward half. If they have to transition out of their back half, they're very good at that. The game that worries me with Melbourne is when it's transition both sides of the game. They don't defend well in that transition side. They attack well, but they don't defend well. So
it's coming back the other way.
So it's coming back the other way just as fast. So for them to be a premiership contender for me, they need to shore up that defensive side of the game. They need to be able to play that front half game for a portion of the game, definitely.
The Cats, are they in a bit of trouble, do you think?
I'm giving them a pass at the moment. I'm careful to write off the Cats. I think Jez's form at the moment is hurting them a little bit, and just in terms of I don't think they can win it if he's not right, and whether he is right or not, we're never going to find out that answer. But ultimately, they're in a bit of a slump at the moment, definitely, and their defensive game where they lock teams in, they're just not getting that as much as what they were. They're getting scored against in that mid-sized forwards having their way with them at the moment. So they're a watch for me, though, because a month ago, they were playing some really dynamic footy. They were defending really well, and they've just gone off the boil for the last month. So, again, another team that's got 7 weeks. I trust their coach. I trust their senior players. I feel like they'll get it right by the end of the year.
Yeah, the Jeremy Cameron one with his arm is a bizarre one. Here's Chris Scott talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going through a bit of a flat spot at the moment, there's no doubt about that. But I do remember getting these questions the week before he kicked 11. So if he doesn't kick at least 10 next week, I'll be flat. But the feedback we're getting is that he's well and truly good enough to play. And I think you can take it as read that we do not play players that we don't think can perform. I'm sort of making a habit of saying this because I feel more strongly about it than, say, I did even 4 or 5 years ago. Right? The fact that a player can get out there to play doesn't mean that he should. So in that context, we are quizzing the medical staff and Jeremy, and he's saying, look, you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm well and truly good enough to perform.
Yeah, this is a bizarre one, this injury. I think it's a nerve-related injury, which could be worse some weeks than others, I reckon.
Yeah, and Chris's comment right at the end there, if you heard him say it's not perfect, and that's the bit.
Yeah.
I don't think that his arm's bad enough for him not to play, but it's obviously going to be bad enough to knock him off his absolute best, which for me, that's the big part of it, is for them to win, you kind of need Jez at his absolute best. The caveat on this, I don't think there's anything you can do. You can't send him in for surgery to fix whether it's nerve related or plate related or screw related. I don't know. I don't have his medical records, but there's nothing you can do about it now. If he's good enough to play, he's going to be out there.
Yeah.
Whether he's good enough to be his 100% self, then that's another question. But ultimately, even if he's out there, he's playing a significant role for the team. Shannon Neal doesn't have as good a year without Jeremy Cameron out there. But when it comes to finals time, we need Jez. If you're a Geelong supporter or Geelong person, you need Jez to be playing some good footy.